Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting, tingling too.
Hey Power Athlete Nation, Callie here. With the holidays right around the corner, you're probably asking yourself, what is the most badass gift of all time? Well, I'm here to tell you. It's a space shuttle. A space shuttle is definitely the most badass gift of all time. But you can't afford that, and we at Power Athlete appreciate that. That's why we like to supply you with the second most badass gift idea of all time. Dedicate episode 87 of Power Athlete Radio to your favorite coach, lifting partner, lover, or even stripper. Here's how it works. Go to the dedication link attached to this blog post and submit your best offer. And through silent auction, we'll determine the winner by December 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Not only will you be supporting the efforts behind this free podcast, but you'll be eligible to win 2 one-minute dedication spots narrated by yours truly. The fun won't stop there, though. Give us details about your special gift recipient, and we'll be sure to add them throughout the show. So don't hesitate to support Power Athlete Radio's endless supply of knowledge bombs through your giving spirit. Now here's the show.
This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
What's happening, Power Athlete Nation? Welcome to episode 85 of Power Athlete Radio. We got a full house today. We got Callie and Tex and Playtech. And then we got some boys down in Australia. Put another shrimp on the barbie. we got the Luke Summers, the Crush Master Bobby Goodfellow, and they're hanging out with the Physio Detective Antony Lowe. What's going on, everybody?
Hey, how are you?
What's up, guys?
It's a lovely accent you have.
You got to put another shrimp on the barbie, boys.
Put another shrimp on the barbie.
Oh my God. The best is seeing Denny do it. Denny do his, like, with a Chicago accent doing an Australian accent is probably one of the better things I've heard today.
You know, the last time I had met Ant was at the games, you know, at the end of July, and he pulls me off to the side, and he's like, how come you have this Chicago accent and Luke doesn't? You guys come from the both same town, same area. He goes, I don't understand how come you sound the way you do and Luke sounds the way he does.
Did you give him a reason? I have a reason.
I didn't know what to say. I was at a loss for words.
Luke moved to California, and he left all of his roots, including his accent and his small town mentality.
I don't know. Luke, man, he's back in the Midwest how many times a year? At least 4 or 5 times a year. 6.
Every 3 weeks.
You know, he can't, every 3 weeks the guy's coming back.
It's only because beer's cheaper there.
Gas, too.
Hey, Callie, remember how much a case of beer costs down in Australia?
Yeah, it's very expensive. Yeah, expensive. Yeah.
So
well, you can get a box of wine for 20. So.
Damn. What's happening? What's going on down in Australia? What are you doing down there, Luke?
We actually just got done training at Ant's house. He's got a pretty nice setup. How big of a lot is it, Ant?
1,250. 12 square meters, so a quarter of an acre.
Like a quarter-acre lot, and he's got a pool back here. He's got his own separate office physio setup, and he's got a nice little outdoor rig setup that's got 2 squat stations. So he's been diagnosing and picking apart Bobby and Mai's movement. We were just out there squatting some triples and doing some bench press, and Ant was kind enough to enlighten us on just the minor little tweaks in setup and execution, either through the thorax, slight overextension, exaggerated overextension, and just because Bobby just got off an airplane. He had a 25-hour travel day.
Holy shit.
Rugged.
Or 30 hours.
30 hours with all the layovers all over the place. So I was not really, I had airplane back. I wasn't really geared up to get under a heavy barbell, but thankfully we had Ant to stick his finger in my ribs and sort out my back spot.
We're in Sydney right now, and just finishing up here. We're going to record here, and then we're going to pop off, drive up to Newcastle, which is like 2 hours. Right? And Ant would be coming with us, but he's got different plans this weekend.
Womp womp.
Sorry, fellas. I'd love to be there, but family holiday. Go sort it out.
So, Ant, what were some of the things? I mean, Luke just briefly mentioned some of the issues that they were having, but what's like your opinion on what you saw as far as their movement? Meaning, is it something common that you see in like a power athlete type of a individual, or was it purely like what would I want to say, like customized? But I mean, was it purely just related to like their their body structure and stuff like that?
Yeah. So what I see in Luke and Bobby, and quite often in a lot of different athletes, to be honest, is that it's the ones who do what they're told and try to do the right thing all the time. They end up with these overcooked positions. So yeah, very, very common in people who are diligent. People who are a little bit lazier, like me, we don't get these sorts of problems because we're not consistently jamming down.
I'm just curious on like when you were talking like the overcooked positions. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So overcooked positions can happen at any joint. In particular, hyperextension of the thoracic spine is a common one when you're trying to pull your shoulder blades back. Shoulders with the elbows, you're trying to generate the tension across that upper back for the bar. But when you lift those elbows high, you can actually push the head of the humerus forward, and that can cause tendonitis and impingement in the shoulders. Your biceps tendon, your rotator cuff tendon tends to cop it. With the spine, you can get jamming. You feel locked up and you want somebody to click you back, or your ribs can pull apart a bit, and then that gives you a bit of a tension in the back, and you want somebody to massage you all the time. Or even you can have these problems, and then because your body's trying to compensate for it, it can actually cause pain somewhere where it's not the main problem. So, that sort of stuff happens.
So specifically, Bobby had got off the airplane and just like, man, my hammies and my QL are just lit up. And it's like, let's see what's going on. And then he prodded around a little bit, and it ended up being more of an issue through that the rib is not being properly supported. And, he taught Bobby a few drills to get that going, and it was literally instantaneous.
It was unbelievable. Release yourself this way.
So
pull in, drive up, or meet like this, and then when I was actually making contact, it was two ribs that were kind of a little bit out of place on both sides, and the way I was normally bracing, I just feel the ribs out of position, and then pulling in under the bracing strategy that Ant had provided, the ribs come right in, the pain goes away from the low back. It's pretty amazing.
And I need you guys to imagine this, because Ant's also trying to help me out, like in terms of just expanding, I guess, not only just my coach's eye, but kind of I would call it like the proprioceptive feedback. So I need you to really close your eyes and just imagine this. So Ant has Bobby facing away from him, and he's poking through each rib, and he's like, oh, I found it, I feel it. He's, I feel this one. He's like, come over here, I want you to do this. So I stand behind Bobby, and I'm kind of feeling it, and I'm like, I don't feel anything, Ant. I feel like I'm blind here. He's like, just focus, use your hands, feel with your hands. And I could not feel these ribs out of place. So he's like, take a step forward. So at this point, Bobby is facing away from me. I'm 6 inches away from Bobby, like breathing on his neck. My hands are on his hips and wrists.
yes.
And his hands are around me. His hands are on my hands, like in Ghost. And like he's like moving my hands, so I'm like rubbing.
We needed
Bobby.
the pottery wheel.
You know what? It's just 3 big dudes in a backyard. enjoying a barbell in the sunshine.
And I've used this term before, but it was a true beefquake. I mean, there's people looking out their windows like, oh my god.
That's amazing. That's a great visual.
Yeah.
So when I talk
should
with Ant, guys, I talk with Ant quite often, and he's walked me through his breakdown and how he analyzes athletes, and it's pretty cool. So if he wants to talk more, kind of, Ant, just the psychosocial, articular, myofascial approach that you take, if you want to explain it to the people.
Yeah. So I've actually just finished up a video I'm going to give away for free, which talks about this. But whenever I look at somebody, let's just say Bobby. Are you okay for me to talk about your situation, Bobby?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Like I'm a professional, so I always ask for permission.
Unlike us.
So, for example, the situation with Bobby. Bobby said, sore SI, my glutes and my hamstrings, they feel lit up. So, there's a joint and there's muscles that he just talked about. But when I look at an athlete, I'm looking at where's their head at, what's their situational context, okay, the joints, but not just one joint. What are all the joints doing? What are all the muscles doing? What are all the nerves doing? How's the brain coordinating the whole pattern? Fatigue comes into it. He just had a 30-hour journey. He'd been in sustained position for a long time in different planes and layovers. So there's articular, myofascial, so the muscles, the neural system, even his internal organs. If he doesn't drink very much, and if he just came off a bucks party, your liver can wreak havoc in there and can cause muscular pulling. Or if you've got things like ovarian cysts, endometriosis, you can have things like irritable bowel syndrome or things like that. They can all cause musculoskeletal problems. So I'm thinking about all of that, and then the technique that they choose to use as well. So there's 6 different systems that I look at when assessing an athlete. So each region, say the shoulder, the lower back, whatever, each region has these 6 systems that I'm always thinking about, not just a muscle or not just a nerve or not just a joint. Is that the sort of thing that you wanted me to talk about, Tex?
Yeah, in recent podcasts, Callie and we've talked a lot about coaching an athlete, and you are not necessarily coaching them. You're just taking that whole approach to what stresses are going on. Like, did they go out drinking? What previous injuries? I know Luke and Bobby, they played football and rugby, so they've got history of just rib bruises and getting beat up. So what kind of approach you take with just that whole aspect of the athlete, I think it's unique. And just if you can go just a little bit further, I know the 6 systems, I have them written down right here: psychosocial, articular, myofascial, neural, visceral, and then performance.
No, I guess if I could steer it kind of slightly, I guess I'm curious as to what your goal is. What is your goal when you're approaching an athlete? Is it based on whatever their goal is, or in the back of your mind, or you're like, okay, I'm always going to try to create a better mover, or am I always trying to look for them to, for instance, follow a traditional lifting movement or a traditional lifting form? Am I looking them to fall into this kind of cookie cutter? And I know that's not what you do, but sort of devil's advocate, like what is your what is sort of driving your practice with these athletes?
Yeah. So my number one goal is to consider their goals. But their goals might be unrealistic, this all fits into the psychosocial area. They may have a goal of being a CrossFit Games athlete, but they have a knee which won't allow a full depth squat, and they want to go to the CrossFit Games next year. I can't do their goal because they have a physical limitation. So it's always balanced by safety. And I just want better movers, and what I like to do is expose whatever weakness they have. If somebody can do, just say somebody can do fast squatting, very quick tempo type stuff, I want to see if they can hold a 5-second pause, different type of challenge. So I'm looking for holes in their game because, for me, the complete athlete won't have any holes in their game, ideally. All their strengths will be spread around nicely. So the goal is to consider their goals, to get as much of their goals achieved, and do so in a safe manner and improve their movement.
Right, based on those 6 sort of areas.
Yeah, the 6 systems for each region. So, you could have, say, a sciatica on the left. You could have a non-painful motor control, a neural problem in your thorax, in your ribs, and then you could have, on the right side, you could have a really flared-up elbow. They may be 3 different problems, or they may be the one problem with 2 different painful manifestations. So my job is to sort out, you got 5 or 6 different sore areas. What my goal is to fire the one bullet that gets as many of the targets knocked down as quickly as possible.
Yeah. How do you, just out of curiosity, I don't mean to derail this at all from Texas question, but hopefully it'll tie in, but how do you empower your athletes to be proactive in their own sort of process of whether it's like rehabilitation or attack those, whatever limiting factors that you've sort of diagnosed within them? How do you either motivate them to do so, or how do you provide them the tools? And do you have steps in place in sort of your role as a physio to enact that or impart that, empower the athlete?
Yeah. So the number one motivating factor that I've found over the 20 years that I've been working is results. If you get results, people will do things. Like, for instance, for Bobby, I told him a cue that I wanted him to do because I thought it would work. All my testing told me that it would work. But if I told Bobby, this works because my testing says so, it doesn't mean jack to him. But the fact that he could get under the bar and start squatting where he had pain before, and now he doesn't have pain because he does it my way, that's how I empower the athletes to do it. I'm pretty confident that Bobby's going to try to hold on to that cue because it felt better. It resulted in a better performance. So that's the number one way, is result. It's not going to be some theoretical, oh, well, this works for everybody, the curse of the gifted, because it works for Jack over there, we're going to do this for everyone. No, for me, it's all about the results, and it's individual results, making sure that individual gets it right. So that's number one. Number two is trying to teach them the principles. Now, because I get people who travel, people from America, people from 2 hours away will come to have a session with me. I use a lot of Coach's Eye to record it, to use the diagramming to show them what to look out for, and then they send me videos. The service doesn't end with the start time, the end time of the appointment. The service continues because people send me videos, and if you post something on my Facebook page, you're giving me free content. I give away free information. Someone wants their squat fixed, nobody's fixed it. Post a video on my Facebook page, the Physio Detective, and we go. Shameless plug. Sorry about that.
Hey, Ant. One of the 6 categories that Tex was talking about was neurological, and I remember when I was out at Power Athlete HQ. I took some video of you working with Luke, where Luke was having some rotational issues, and you pulled out a band, and you had him wrap the band around his scapula, and I remember you saying, you're like, you know what, this band's gonna do nothing, but it's not gonna do anything but just kind of set Luke's mind to know that he had that band there, but it wasn't gonna aid in his movement at all. It was just there so he could feel it. And you were telling him to think about this, think about twisting this way and think about that and the other thing. And he was able to do what you had asked for, and he had like full rotation on the left side and on the right side. And I remember thinking, like, how often do you see that when you work with people where it's just a matter of like this mind-muscle connection, you know, with the athlete?
It's every day, Denny, every day. That, like, I mean, that is what I do. It's the essence of what I do. You know, a good coach can do very, very similar things to what I do. The only difference that I have over them is that I just usually have a deeper understanding of how the body works. The other thing is that because I was a pretty crappy student in my undergrad days, I didn't hit a cookie cutter. I kind of broke the mold because I wasn't around, and you know, I was having fun. I was having fun in college, so you know, my results were only a credit average, you know, just under 70%. But what that did was it meant that when I went out there and I was a very average physiotherapist, I was sick of not knowing answers to my questions, and then supposedly very smart people couldn't give me the answers either, and that just set me on a journey to work out what's the best way, the fastest way to help people. And because I didn't have all those preconceived ideas, because I wasn't checked in mentally at college, it gave me the freedom to develop ideas and challenge the establishment, which means that often my way is unconventional, but I'm happy to be outside of the mainstream. And you know, you go see somebody, and most of the time it works, you know, but when you go see somebody and it doesn't work, and you've exhausted all the conventional options, that's where I really get the freedom to go, look, you've tried everything else, they're all good people, now it's time to try some strange stuff, and let's go have some fun with that.
So now, and you have these 6 principles, and is this a hierarchy?
No, well, the brain game is certainly in the center, and it drives a lot of what goes on. But then you've got the articular, the myofascial, the visceral, and the neural. They sit outside. So if you can just imagine the center of a wheel being the psychosocial or the mental game, and then you've got around that another, say, an inner wheel, and that's those 4 things. So joints, muscles, nerves, brain, and the internal organs. And then on the outside, the last circle on the outside is your strategies for performance and function, your technique, how you do what you do. And so the idea is that if the core of your being, if your mental game is off, it affects your whole performance. The wheel is off. Mm-hmm. Or you might have a joint that's not right, like you might have an ACL tear, and you don't have the muscles to support the knee joint, then that part of the wheel becomes wonky, and so your performance is wonky because the wheel is not balanced out. So it's not my model, it's a model from a couple of Canadian physios, but I love it. It just makes so much sense.
And then how would you compare, would you consider that a conventional or unconventional model in contrast to maybe some of the people who were the nerds in college and didn't have fun, and you know, they have a hard time thinking outside of the framework that they established at a young age?
Yeah, so look, I think it's just an extension of what's commonly accepted. You know, people will tell you that they're holistic, but they won't necessarily understand how to understand. For example, Bobby today had a left sciatica, and he kept pointing to his joint low in his back, and he kept pointing to his left hip and his left hamstring. And Bobby will confirm to you, I didn't touch anything below his back, because all of a sudden, once I assessed his back, we could see, Luke could see. Yep. I showed Luke where the problem was first coming from up higher, so we looked up higher, we found the ribs. As soon as we controlled the ribs, I pushed on the rib. Bobby said that his pain was a lot less. I pushed on a different rib, it took the pain away, we got him under the bar, he was able to squat without pain. It's literally that quick, less than 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and he was squatting without pain.
Witch doctor stuff. We only had to do a dance around a flaming skull and wear like a headdress as well.
That's it. But that's just normal stuff, you know.
I think it was actually this touch that maybe has cured Bobby.
You've officially had your hands on the most of the Power Athlete staff, and I'm just curious. I'm not competitive, but who is the least jammed up? And it's okay to say me if that's like the first person that comes to mind.
Wilborn has to be the most jammed up. Right? Yeah. Wilborn's got to be jammed up hard. Right?
Wilborn is jammed up a lot.
I think we just found our quote for this show. Go on.
Yeah, I would say it's competition between you and Chelsea, to be honest.
The least jammed up?
The least jammed up.
You know what's so crazy is they're the least jammed up, but they are always jamming me up.
That bitch, I swear, I'm gonna jam her up. Do you have a special power athlete in your life? Give the gift that you know every self-involved athlete can't live without: attention. That's right, for the first time ever, you can sponsor an entire episode of Power Athlete Radio. Here's how it works. The silent auction will start today, December 12th, and run for 1 week, closing at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on December 17th. You can submit your offer by going to powerathletehq.com. If you win the silent auction, you'll be able to dedicate the podcast to one lucky power athlete. Your episode will air on Christmas Day, complete with 2 one-minute spots where yours truly will regale listeners with short stories, dedications, or messages to that special someone. Remember that this present is appropriate for just about anyone, provided English is their primary language and they have reasonable hearing. So treat a workout partner, a coach, a mailman, a significant other, even yourself. With over 7,000 downloads an episode, your gift will be the envy of many a listener. Give the gift that lives forever in audio history. It's like naming a star, except less depressing, because as we all know, visible stars are actually already dead. Happy holidays!
Let's see, what else we... Well, I was out here a couple days early visiting with our buddy Bo and his girlfriend, and we spent the day with Ant as well, and he helped everybody out. And but prior to that, I had the last leg of Bobby's trip, so I only had maybe 15 hours that I suffered, but I ended up getting in Wednesday morning and just took a really kind of like a quick tour of Manly Beach down here, which is a cool little area, and was able to sit on the beach for a couple hours. Then I was desperately seeking Wi-Fi in Manly. There is no Wi-Fi in Manly, and the Wi-Fi at Bo's place, you can only connect for 5 minutes at a time, and then you're off for 10. And it was so I apologize, I guess, in hindsight, to some of the people who have been hitting me up for some customer service stuff. My hopes are in Newcastle. We're going to be able to plop down and get some office hours. But, then we got the cert. We got the cert down here. Ray Daniel's going to be there. That's what I'm told.
Can we say that anybody who has complaints about the customer service can also email you directly?
Just email. Here, listen, these people are jamming me up. You're jamming me up. Australia Wi-Fi's jamming me up. No wonder I'm so jammed up down here.
Yeah, it's a big cert this weekend, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think we got 40.
40.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
So, what am I missing,
Denny, what else is on the docket for today?
Well, we got you and Tex both released some great articles that are on Power Athlete HQ's site. Tex has got planes, axes, and primal movements. That also, Ant released an article, what do we got, back in March, all right, talking about, it kind of correlates to the same information that Tex was going in, the specific movements in 3 dimensions. And I thought maybe Tex and Ant can just kind of start a conversation regarding Tex's purpose of putting that article out there, what his intentions were, and then Ant just, through his article, his is kind of just like noticing, maybe there could be some holes in just working totally in a sagittal plane motion, which a lot of, CrossFit movements seem to be geared in. So Tex, I mean, that article that you came out with, what were you driving at?
A lot of things. So I'm writing a few other articles just right now, and I'm digging in deep into some ACL, just kind of prevention strategies. And Ant and I, we sat down at the games. We were there for 3 days, and each day we had a different conversation about the hamstring, and then its kind of purpose, its action through all three planes of motion. And so I'm sitting here putting together this ACL piece, and it's like, well, holy shit, what's the biggest thing that we have a problem with at our certs? And it's people kind of, they're stuck in this sagittal plane. They're stuck in this this programming mindset of everything in that door frame. So I know every field sport athlete, you don't have to think about it. You're just going through every single plane of motion every day. But a lot of the coaches and the people we are starting to deal with now, they are in that one plane. So it was just to kind of approach to go, let's go all the way back to the basics, so then we can truly make an impact with these other articles and approaches. So I even with the twisting, the rotation article that I called Ant about, it was sagittal plane, that's the biggest problem. And so it just, that article and the ACL research, I had to take a step back so we can take 2 steps forward. So, Ant, if you want to talk about that sagittal plane article, even though it was way back in March, it's still evident all over the competitions and even at the games.
Yeah. So sagittal plane is the motion that's the most commonly used, which is like the forwards, backwards of the hip, flexion, extension. Transverse plane is the twisting, and that's what I think is the one that's misfitted, as well as the coronal or frontal plane sort of motion, And when you think about it, there's not many exercises that really develop rotation and side bending as there is for flexion extension. It's just much easier to stand in the doorway and do stuff, But I find in my assessment, when I'm asking people to do things, I'll get them to bend over and twist, and they don't know how to do it. They look Gumby. They look really uncoordinated. And when I see that, that just reinforces my belief that if I can find out the holes in somebody's system, then it produces better athletes, and it gives your brain more options. And the way that the body works is very simply, the more options that you have for movement, so more movement options, the more likely you are to be able to accommodate any sort of known and unknowable situation that's thrust upon you. So I remember talking to John about, he sets up on the line, and whatever his play is, he's trying to get good first initial contact. Like, that's a known situation, and the unknown would be just the little different variations that the player could do that he's going to go up against. They're the little unknown bits, but ultimately both people know that you're going to try to jam somebody up. However, sometimes you're on the football field, or the classic was I was watching $1 Million Baby. This is spoiler alert if you've not seen it, but in one of the fights, the bell is gone, and one of the characters puts on a cheap shot after the bell, and it results in catastrophic consequences. And that's an unknowable situation, and that's, sometimes accidents just happen. But for me, if your body does not have a good rotation or side bending strategy that it can call upon at any time, then you're just going to load up different joints, and that's how people do get jammed up. They feel jacked. They feel like they need a stretch or a massage, And, you go get a massage and they release your muscles, and sometimes you can actually feel worse. And that's because your muscles were actually serving a purpose in that tension, and taking that tension away just made the situation worse. So the whole idea is to give yourself 100% the best chance of surviving life by having all planes of motion taken care of.
And some injuries that I've personally witnessed kind of associated with overloading that sagittal plane, it just kind of at Texas with the football team, just the amount of kind of groin injuries and stuff that I've never seen kind of in my sporting experience or working with other teams, just kind of light loads, heavy reps, and just go, 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 go. And not a lot of rotation or kind of side-to-side lateral movement, frontal plane movement with those athletes, and then it resulted in kind of 4 athletes with the same injury. So if multiple athletes have the exact same injuries on a team, you know something's wrong with your training. And just talking with a few CrossFit coaches approached me. Their athletes are just so locked down, their ribs cannot expand. And that's one of the things I brought to Ant. I'm like, could this be rotation? And he said, yeah, external obliques just locked down. They can't twist, and then that holds down the lungs, and it's all connected.
So Tex,
100%, And,
Tex, you've gone to some universities. You're on a seminar staff. You're traveling all across. Would you fault the strength and conditioning coach for not implementing a program for a field sport athlete that isn't paying attention to like rotational movement? Is it squarely on that coach's shoulders?
An injury like that I witnessed, I want to say yes. But
yeah.
the amount of pressure that was at that level and that coach, it was unbelievable. And take just like he's got a lot to deal with, and they're not guys that are willing to hand off programming for other coaches to look over. It's write it all down, deal with all the bullshit head coach, sport coach you got to deal with, and then give it to these athletes, and they have to go 100%. And those athletes, they don't know any better. And this is what really kind of motivates me, is that athlete, he thinks every sprint, every squat, everything that he's given, he's going to do it his damnedest because it's going to win him a national championship. It's going to give him an opportunity at the NFL. But the coach half-assed his programming or his approach to this athlete, and that athlete pays the consequences.
And how great is that problem? You think that's pretty rampant across the strength, division, pro level, collegiate level?
I can only speak for my personal experience at the college level with the schools I was with. I don't know if it's a big problem. I can't put the blanket answer on that because I do know some great coaches out there, and they're fighting at different schools, kind of the same uphill battle, and that's where we connect. And we're all young guys, so I know the coaches that are in the position, they're dealing with the same sport coach pressures, the same money pressures, and it's all us younger guys that are seeing all the problems. We're approaching the sport coaches, but then problems still occur. So I mean, that's just a whole nother conversation altogether.
And if I may speak to Ant's sort of unique style, I mean, he is the best at what he does, and just the fact that Ant, his article, you guys can find it on physiodetective.com, how he addresses this as an issue just within like the popular sport of CrossFit. I think it speaks to him sort of having a bit of a non-traditional. And very like he said earlier, 10 minutes ago, how he has sort of that unconventional approach because he was never inducted into this cookie cutter sort of view of a sport or a training system or a way to view limiting factors. I mean, he just sort of evolved his methods on his own, and I think through observation, I I admire Ant's, it's not courage, but it's just like his willingness to sort of say, okay, this is a problem and it's not being addressed and it's part of athleticism and it's, a huge component to making sure these athletes are balanced, not only in terms of like testing them, but in terms of, just general, like, making sure that they're good movers and hopefully, extenuating that athletic longevity. So I think it's great that you wrote that article, and I think more people should sort of speak up to the shortcomings that we see in all sports. So.
And it's unfortunate in the sports, the athletic trainer, kind of almost like the physical therapist to a sports team. They are viewed as an enemy because they take a player off the field or the court, even though they have the player's best intentions. They want to make sure they're safe and continue to play. So, Ant, have you ever had any backlash from coaches or players in your experience that ignore you just to get back on the field?
Yeah, of course. And it's tough because you want to keep working with the athletes, but you've got to go through the gatekeeper. And if you piss the coach off, then you're not going to get access to the athletes. And so it's a very delicate political minefield, to be honest, and it's not one that I enjoy a lot of, which is why I don't work with a lot of sports teams, just because there's going to be that tension one day, and and a kid is a kid who's a kid. They just want to play, they want to please people, they want to win, and they're just going to defer their health, and they're just going to put it on the line when really we're playing park footy. We're not playing for $1 million. If you have to play 2 more games this season to get $1 million bonus, well, hell, that's a pretty good incentive to stay on the field. But if you're playing park footy, and I think that this will result in an operation that's going to take you 9 months to come back from, and it's going to affect your job as a labourer, I think it's more important to take care of your home and your health and your income for the sake of playing a game that really doesn't mean anything other than a bit of pride. You've got to swallow your pride sometimes. So I hope I answered that. But yeah, I don't like that minefield. But at the same time, being competitive myself, I know what it's like to want to stay out there. And believe me, I've had times where even as a physiotherapist, I've waited until someone's pulled me off the field before I come off. Even though I know better. So I know exactly what it feels like. And so I sit between the two worlds. But I'm prepared to wear the backlash. I'm big enough, I'm fat enough, I'm old enough. I've got enough money now.
Ant, have you ever been really wrong about a diagnosis? Have you ever been really wrong? You're like, well, it's obvious that your rib is out of place and we need to work on that, and you're like, oh, holy shit, I'm completely wrong. Like, everything's fine, we're fine. Have you ever sort of been in a situation where you catch yourself and you're, like you've had like these learning processes where maybe one thing didn't work and you were way off? I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely, and it happens a lot, and it happens more times than people are willing to admit. And like I said, I'm old enough. I'll tell you that the way that I learned a lot of my stuff is through making mistakes. And the whole idea of putting safety first is that if I do make a mistake, have I made the best decision for you as an athlete? Because my decision is based on your safety. I actually consider the fact, okay, what if I'm wrong? So even though I don't talk about it a lot of my decisions come down to, okay, what if I'm wrong? When I pushed on Bobby's ribs, if I was wrong, he's just going to have the same amount of pain. That's not really that bad a consequence. He's already got that pain. But if I did a technique where I was wrong and the consequence is that he could break a bone, or he might actually have a concussion and a small bleed going on, and I send him back on the field, that's a big what if I'm wrong, and so that's why athletic trainers, good ones, will err on the side of caution, because you have to consider what if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping you would say. It's annoying when people sort of can't come to terms with the fact that that's like how we all learn, and that's how you get to be an expert in your field is just through that sort of process. And so that was a test, and I knew that you would pass it.
Thanks, Kelly, and thank you for your kind words earlier. But to be honest, the older I get, the more I realize I don't know. And I'm trying to help some people at the moment, some women's health physios at the moment. I want them to produce videos to explain some concepts that I understand, but I know that other people don't understand, and they keep giving me static. They keep saying, "Oh, but what about this?" or "Oh, people already know about this." It's like, no, give people more information, because the more you know, the more you begin to realize what you don't know. And I'll be the first to tell you that I hope to continue learning for the rest of my life, because the day that I say that I know it all is the day that I need to retire. The wrong attitude.
This is totally going to be like me getting out a little bit, but I think also, and Luke, don't laugh, but because I listened to a podcast recently about like what you were talking about earlier, people learning in confined institutions, and when you sort of go through the process of getting an A on a test, or getting a 4.0, or whatever these sort of these parameters are, not these standards are, you sort of feel like you know everything at that point, and so you sort of come out the other end with a perspective of like, I've got this covered. But when you come from the background that you've come from, and so many other people who are successful in their field come from, it's pretty fascinating to see they've actually failed quite a bit, or they've sort of had these shortcomings in different areas, and it's just shown them and really sort of sparked that interest to gain more and more and more and more than they ever would had they perfected everything from the very beginning. So there's that.
100%. And one of the things that I wanted to say was that even though I've developed a lot of the specific ideas myself, I've had good mentors. I've found out who to listen to and who not to listen to, and I challenge a lot of people's beliefs. Every time I turn up, you guys say something, and I go, "Oh, really? Let's see. Let's see if that's really true or not." And the reason why is because somebody did that to me. I spewed forth a belief, and they said, "You know what? Let's test that, because if you're right, it should show up in testing." And sure enough, I gave them the theoretical answer, but I couldn't give a practical demonstration of how that should look. And from that point on, it's like, okay, if I can't back up my beliefs, I should really challenge those beliefs and make sure that they're right and that I'm implementing it correctly, or I should be willing to consider to walk away from that belief and consider a different belief, or try to find out what the correct belief is. And I'm a different person to what I was 3 years ago, 1 year ago, 10 years ago, because I'm always happy to have my beliefs challenged. If you show me a better way, you only have to show me that it's better, because all the theory in the world doesn't mean jack if you can't back it up with the results.
Hell yeah.
Callie, that's like keeping that's obviously like keeping an open mind. You're never too arrogant to think that you know it all. Accepting change. Kind of going along with that. That's kind of a good segue into your article that you just came out with in regarding just kind of how to kind of change up your training stimulus. You posted an article about like 7 unconventional changes that you can make. Was that could you talk a little bit about like where you were going with that article, or you kind of taking that same approach, like, hey, let's keep an open mind here and
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'll have to apologize while I'm talking. The girls, Luke, your girlfriend's over here banging weights, and it's kind of loud. So sorry if you guys hear it in the background. But the my approach to training in general is that it is such a multidimensional thing, and that's the thing that fascinates me about strength conditioning. And I'm more fascinated with ways that we can improve our training that are unconventional. Like what are all the other variables aside from the programming? I mean, we know a ton about that, and we can still continue to dive into that and dive into what's going to create the best physiological adaptation. But then there are so many other factors in our daily life, or things even within the realm of our gym or our box, that can influence the type of progress we make. And so that was kind of the thing that inspired me to write it, I guess. But it's 7. It's just, I mean, fuck, it's like stupid douchey number, like whatever. Could be 10, could be 11, who knows? But it's just it's just a starting point for people to start to view their training in a different way. That's something like I try to impart on people when I either speak at seminars or I have a chance to talk someone's ear off, say in like a 6 to 8 hour van ride to Las Vegas or Arizona. These are things that really, I think, play a huge role in how we get athletes to basically do things that are going to optimize their performance. And so, yeah, listed in the article is just some of my tricks of the trade. And I'm 100%, I should have opened it to dialogue at the bottom, and maybe I'll make a little shout out to other people who've used other tricks, in the training to get athletes to be a little bit more self-aware, or to be a little more either aroused or sort of focused. What do they do to challenge those different, whether it's mental toughness or alertness or agility, reaction time? How can they use unconventional approaches? And so that was just sort of my short list. And I know that I use them at the seminar, but I use them with myself, and I think it's just hopefully getting people to view their training as not just this one-dimensional thing about getting stronger and faster, but really how do we do that? So
I know Steve chimed in, because we all know that back in the day, Steve liked to post the weather and the humidity and the time of the day. I mean, all these circumstances that were important to his training day.
He did, and I was giving so much shit about that too. I gave him shit on there about posting the humidity, because I just was like, this is such a superfluous bit of information. But looking back, I think I was probably 28 at the time, so I was pretty young. And now I'm 29. Just kidding, 30. And so, I can appreciate why that variable.
Wow, just say you were wrong and I was right.
Yeah, I was wrong. You were right. I think even though I think part of it was like 50% in jest, the fact that he would post it, but the other 50% was like, this is actual like legitimate sort of a stressor in a training environment, and I can appreciate that because I'm from the East Coast. I know, but there's nothing like Georgia humidity, and so I just that's definitely one example. So
before the record, Sally and I had nice air conditioning, and we would see Steve post the humidity and be like, this fucking douche, while we're sitting there freezing cold in the middle of summer.
So 100%. So Tex and I, when we used to train at DuPont, which was like this old, we didn't have air conditioning, but it was this old gym attached. It was like a basketball court attached to an old church, and so we had access to it. But in the summertime, it had zero air conditioning. It had like a fan, And then in the wintertime, obviously, it was cold as shit. The summertime was the worst, and I remember training on that floor, and like the entire basketball court, if we had a class there or we were there training, it would be covered in sweat. I mean, people would just show up and be dripping, and so not to get too off the rails, but yeah, it's taking a trip down memory lane, and Bobby knows too. Because Bobby's been
don't forget the mosquitoes.
Yeah. Remember when we released those videos on the 7 o'clock class?
Remember when you were with the Beatles?
That place was a mess all the time. Just bugs all over from keeping the doors open, and DC's just buggy as hell. It's rough.
Bobby, how's the knee, dude? I see you're squatting a shit ton of weight. It's got to be feeling better.
Not squatting a lot of weight, but the knee's feeling good. Calf is feeling good. Knee feels good. I'm on the mend.
So Bobby's been plagued with just knickknacks and injuries for, we were talking at breakfast, he said 2 years.
Yeah, for about 2 years.
And hasn't been able to squat what he, relatively to his capability, heavy because of that.
Okay,
So,
but here's the thing. Bobby is the only one who legitimately plays still full contact sport. He still grapples regularly. So that's where you got most of your injuries, right, Bob?
Yeah, I tore my MCL in a jiu-jitsu tournament. That was pretty gnarly, and the calf let go on a sprint, which was real strange for me. I'm getting old now, Maybe I'm just
Come on,
I'm just getting a little old.
Come on.
Now, what I heard there was Bobby's too compressed, and his joints and muscles aren't coping with the amount of compression that he put on there. You know what I mean? Like, you feel different injuries, and like, so I don't know about stretching, but he's got to. If he trains better, he's going to protect himself a lot more. Like sometimes you can't help the MCL on your knee because somebody puts you in a lock or whatever. Like, I mean, that's a situation that you can't prevent. You can't tap out fast enough sometimes, or sometimes it's just so quick it happens. But things like a calf going, or an elbow that's sore, or a shoulder that's sore, or your neck's all jacked up, or you got back pain all the time. That just, like most decent, diligent athletes who are lifting weights are trying to compress themselves to be stiff and tight, and they don't know how to let that go so that your joints can rehydrate, they can get their nutrition in, and they keep the tension on too much. So, when you're relaxing, relax. When you need to be stiff, be stiff. And if you have trouble doing that at the right times, they have pills for that too. Relaxing.
Yeah. Just let go, man. Just let it go.
That's kind of zen.
Let it go.
That's kind of zen-like.
That was very B-Water. That was very Bruce Lee of you.
Yeah. Hey, Ant, being that you're like a wealth of knowledge, do you have you ever studied like any of the pressure points? Do you know who Richard or George Dillman is? Have you ever heard of
because I don't
George Dillman?
Conventional training, I don't know who a lot of the names are.
Kyushu Jitsu?
No, I don't know who that is.
The art of the method of pressure point fighting? Have you ever heard of like the 14 meridians of the body?
Yeah, so that sounds very Eastern, and it'll be a variation on that.
It is very Eastern, dude. There's 14 meridians of the body, right? Like 12 on the left side, 12 on, or 6 on the left, 6 on the right, and the last 2 are like on the body center line. So each meridian is named after an organ to which they correspond. There's like the stomach, the spleen, the gallbladder. I mean, you're known for like sticking your fingers in people's ribs and stuff like that. I mean, are you, do you think about like pressure points, or is there any kind of connection there?
So what I often say about things like that is that people develop theories, whether they be Eastern or Western. People develop these theories based on what they observe. So I'm sure that this pressure point fighting, they're finding weaknesses. You know, it could be at an intersection of a nerve. It could be at the blending of the tendon into the muscle. It could be that you've got a bunch of nerves. You know, there are some of my colleagues who don't believe at all in trigger points and all the things that you're talking about, but I am very open to the theory. I just I go by results more. So just because you believe that waving your hands dressed in a costume over my head took my headache away, it's not necessarily the reason why it went away. You know what I mean? But I'm happy that the results were there. So I'm open to the practice of things, and I'm also open to the reason why, and it's not necessarily the reason that you tell me.
I think Ant just said there is no God, which is weird because that's what I heard. That's so bizarre.
There is definitely a God.
I'm just trying to create a little controversy to spice things up a little bit.
Useless information.
Commence.
Show closing part of.
Yeah, it's all be edited. This will all be edited out anyway. It's fine.
Now here's an update for you guys. So clearly on a 15-hour flight, you have a TV screen in front of you. Here's what I watched. All right, and this is per recommendation of one of my buddies who has terrible taste in 22 Jump Street. Have you seen 22 Jump Street? Anyone?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
It's awesome.
Oh wait, no, I saw 21. 21 Jump Street is what I saw.
You know, it's not like it is. First off, let me go ahead and just preface it with it's not good, but it's great.
It's awesome.
They had. I was deep belly laughing out loud, like hard laughing to the point where like people were staring at me at this one scene, and I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but it was hilarious. And then the best, I'd say the second, besides that one scene, the second best part is the end, and it's not like the credits, and it's not. This isn't really a spoiler, but like they go into 23 Jump Street, 24 Jump Street, 25 Jump Street, and they have all these different themes like you're going to culinary school or you're going to dancing school, and like it's just some good stuff. So if you haven't seen that one yet, definitely recommend. No, it's these. It's not giving it away. Texas, that giving it away.
It's hilarious. But each detail involved in everything up to 40 Jump Street is really funny.
Did you guys?
So they go like to 40 Jump Street.
Did you guys see the frickin' trailer for the new Terminator?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I mean, come on, dude.
Arnold looks 30 years old. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Arnold. There's a scene where Arnold says, "I'll be back." He jumps from a helicopter, or he's jumping out of something to a helicopter, and he's got like fucking gray hair, dude.
Denny, did you just knock Arnold?
Sounds perfect.
I knocked Arnold. He's like 70 years old. Why is he making...
Denny, did you just resign from the podcast?
I'd knock Arnold.
I know what you do to Arnold opera.
This is Arnold. Arnold needs money.
Dude.
Arnold needs money for all his illegitimate children out there. And frickin'...
It's going to win an Academy Award, Denny. You need to shut your mouth.
You need to shut your mouth.
Hey...
Denny,
best movie ever made.
Smack you.
No. Even even the new Terminator isn't cool, man.
Well, it starred Christian Bale, and Christian Bale can do no wrong.
No.
I
tell you what is cool, and I know
argument.
It's gonna probably strike a nerve with Callie, but did you guys see the Episode 7 trailer for Star Wars? The Force Awakens?
Looks good.
The new lightsaber?
Yeah, Dark and Vader, Spock are all back.
It's gonna suck though.
No way.
Oh, Denny, you don't know anything. The first three suck. You remake?
Oh, come on, man.
Which first three?
I mean,
Sorry, the second three that were the first three prequels.
1 through 3.
Original three that were 4, 5, and 6.
Listen,
You guys
everyone's
gotta
gonna
have a more open mind.
Empire Strikes Back.
You got to think
Everyone's
of
gonna fucking see
the
it, though.
prequels are like the modern day Metallica, you know? Yes, the old school Metallica was
Oh my
good,
god.
but I mean, some of the newer Metallica songs are good as well.
We have officially gone off the rails.
No, we're not
on,
quite
a,
there.
on a crazy train. On a crazy train. Isn't that Metallica?
Before we go, Ant, you got anything coming up that you want to push out there or point anyone in the right direction?
Yeah, I've got a few things. Number one, I want you to keep an eye out for a video. It's 2 hours of my introduction talk, which can usually range between 1 hour and 2 hours. I took my time on this one. It's 2 hours of me explaining how I think, how I assess, just my beliefs on a whole bunch of things. So, you know, when you see that, sign up for it. It's a free download. And I'm going to hopefully next year be putting out a lot of materials about drills and how to take care of your shoulder, how to take care of your core, and working closely with the para athlete guys on some content stuff as well. So I've got a lot planned for this coming year. I've also got plans, Denny and Tess and Bobby, if you can get me to America, I hope to do a little American tour of the para athlete, different regions, and you know, spread some of the love, and hopefully do some pelvic floor type work as well. So that'll be good.
So, and where specifically is the best place to keep an eye out for this video? Facebook? They should get on your Facebook? Or?
Yeah, there's Facebook, but it's going to be on my blog, physiodetective.com.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to start a hashtag @AntToAmerica, and then it's just like a donation page.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much,
guys.
Kelly. We'll definitely talk offline, guys.
Adios.
Okay, bye.
Thank you very
Shut
much.
it down. Let's go
Bye.
home.